Back to Hardball. One day after the president's strategy session in Afghanistan last Wednesday, the top U.S. commander there, General Stanley McChrystal, on Thursday publicly rejected the option of a scaled-back counterterrorism mission during a speaking engagement in London. General McChrystal wants an additional 40,000 troops to beat back the Taliban and help protect the Afghan population, which puts him at odds with some in the White House who are pushing for a smaller military footprint to target al-Qaeda. But is it appropriate for the top military man in Afghanistan to flat-out reject, and publicly so, a more narrow military strategy when the president, the commander-in-chief, has yet to make a decision? Retired Army General Paul Eaton is a senior advisor to the National Security Network. General, thank you. And retired Army Colonel Jack Jacobs is an MSNBC military analyst. Gentlemen, thank you both. Let's take a look. Here's the Washington Post. We don't have film of this or video, but we have the quote from the speech in London by General McChrystal, our commander in Afghanistan. It reports that when asked whether a scaled-back U.S. effort in Afghanistan would work in practice, McChrystal said, quote, "The shorter answer is no. You have to navigate from where you are, not from where you wish to be. A strategy that does not leave Afghanistan in a stable position is probably a short-sighted strategy." General, you have a president, you have a general, a field commander challenging a strategy that's being talked about in the White House right now. How's that stand in terms of military discipline?
Well, you've got to look at it from where General McChrystal's sitting. He published he produced a document, the recommendation that he gave to the president. Somebody leaked it. So his position's already known. It's a matter of fact. So he has now posed a question that is, in fact, directly aligned to the recommendation that he gave the president. He reiterated the position that's in that paper that never should have been revealed.
So he's simply backing up what he has to. But should he be out giving speeches when he knows he'll get a question asked about it? He's setting up a Q&A. He will be asked, he knows, before he goes into that London speech. He knows he's going to have to answer the question whether he has, in fact, has recommended this 40,000 troop increase. He knows that.
I suspect this speech got lined up a long time ago. One. Two, he's in London, our ally, our great ally. So in a NATO context, he's not likely to say that small footprint, oh, by the way, our allies, we don't need to do that.
Colonel Jacobs, here you have the president and his field commander engaged in a public discussion. Now, neither has the general has taken sides. He says we need 40,000 more troops. The president is weighing the options, including the one that's been associated with his vice president, Joe Biden, which is to focus on catching al-Qaeda, not on nation building or even on population defense. Isn't this strange to have this debate going on out in the open?
Yeah, I'm not very fond of policy like this being made out in public with everybody, including the vice president and the secretary of state, by the way, weighing in public on what should be done in Afghanistan. And if I had been General McChrystal, if fielding that question, I would have said, look, we're in the middle of a policy debate. I'm not going to answer that question. And it's irrelevant that the thing had been leaked before or somebody else did that. There's no reason why he can't dodge the question. I think that policy that's made in public usually turns out to be rotten policy.
You know, gentlemen, what it means to me, it sounds to me like the debate over health care. Not to knock the president. He doesn't need to be knocked right now. But here he is letting Hillary Clinton, his Secretary of State, say if we let the Taliban come back, al-Qaeda will be back. McChrystal's out there. His thing's been leaked. Who knows who leaked it? That's out there. But you know his position. Biden's position's out there. So here he is, the president of the United States, with three different positions floating out there. We can't identify any as his.
One of the great strengths of the Democratic Party is healthy debate. It's a little fractious, it's a little ugly sometimes, but I wish we had had a whole lot more of that a few years ago when George Bush decided to go into Iraq.
So you think it's good that we have this sort of bull session going on publicly?
Absolutely. It doesn't bother me at all. Don't be afraid of the debate. Put it on the table.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think debate is great. The place for it is in the cabinet room and in Central Command headquarters, but not in the press. I think the President of the United States is in a position where he's got to make some sort of decision. He knows he does. He's got various people telling him different kinds of things. The best decisions are made in secret and then announced publicly.
Okay, here's an example of where the President seems to be directing business. Here he is. This is yesterday. The National Security Advisor, Jim Jones, is National Security Director. He's got the old Kissinger job. He's the big-time guy in the White House who traffic controls all policy debates. Here he is saying it's unseemly for General McChrystal to publicly be campaigning, as he puts it, for one particular strategy, going up 40,000 troops, and then saying, when you catch this, he says in this speech here, on television the other day that McChrystal, instead of offering one proposal, should be giving the president an array of options. Here he is really sticking it to him for having a public position out there, and then sticking it to him saying, you owe the president more than one option. Here he is, General Jones.
Ideally, it's better for military advice to come up through the chain of command, and I think that General McChrystal and the others in the chain of command will present the president with not just one option, which does in fact tend to have a forcing function, but a range of options that the president can consider. How do you think of that, Colonel?
Yeah, I think he's off the mark too. He's absolutely right about the fact that a subordinate staff, and that includes General McChrystal, gives a wide range of options and what their possible outcomes would be, and then gives his recommendation too. I mean, that's his job. But I think for General Jones, whom I've known for a long period of time, and he really is the honest broker, then to castigate General McChrystal for only offering one option, I think, is bad news on General Jones's part. All this stuff needs to be done in the cabinet room, including the remarks of the National Security Advisor.
Shouldn't the president be allowed to set the strategy and the general to carry it out? And here's the general. Here's the general saying, you only got one strategy here. You got to protect the population. You got a nation build. You can't just do counterterrorism. He's dictating to the president publicly now what his strategy has to be in Afghanistan.
The general has an opinion. He is the man on the ground. Someone asked the question. He answered the question. He answered it faithfully, and he answered it properly. Also,
okay.
We've got a problem right now that there's this obsession with numbers of military to dedicate to the problem.
Right.
It's a lot more than just the military. I want to see the rest of the executive branch, and so does the military, to see the rest of the executive branch redefine national security in the totality of American power to bear. So what you see, he's really got much more on the table that's not been revealed in this discussion.
And I think a big challenge for the president, he has to change his mind. Because back in March of this year, he was for a strategy very much like McChrystal's talking about. If he's got a different strategy, more in line with Biden, which is just counterterrorism, going after al-Qaeda, he's going to have to change his mission, his complement, and everything of troops over there. Thank you, General.
Absolutely.
General Eaton, thanks for joining us. As always, thank you, Colonel Jacobs. Up next, have we just heard another macaca moment in Virginia? That's next in the sideshow. You're watching Hardball, only on MSNBC.